At the birthday celebration of the former president, Mr. Goodluck Jonathan, also a former Nigerian leader, also spoke about, this concept of winner taking all. He also had a thing or two to say about the state of governance in the country, even beginning with the elections. And he said something about a president must be accommodating to the extent that, including members of the opposition in his cabinet as a way to ensure inclusivity. I wonder what you make of that. Where I'm exactly driving at is when you look at, just to compare what Mr. Sowunmi said, if the Tinubu administration is on the right track, or if it seems like it's still going to be business as usual, looking at the pervasive system we have on our hands in terms of governance.
Mr. Sowunmi has been very clear by saying that we need to generally interrogate everything from A to Z, down, upward, upward, down. Because you see, no matter how good you are, and which is also compulsory, and I'd like to also take Mr. Sowunmi back there. You see, for us to interrogate the system, you need a leader that is good to institute that. Because most of the time, you need someone to say, okay, we must go on this journey. This is critical. This is the way to go, and all of that. And when you talk about good leadership, you're talking about people with courage, people with the kind of character of the present president who will look at something in the face and say, look, this is what we're going to do, and we must do it. And yes, it might be painful, we might go through pain, but this is the way we want to go. And so for me, I think we have a rare opportunity in him, as he is courageous enough to say, okay, we do not need the subsidy any longer. We cannot afford to go on the regime of the foreign exchange that we're going on. We need him to also exhibit that same courage in the space or area of rejigging the political structure of Nigeria. Because clearly that is very, very important, because you can't build a building on a faulty foundation. It is clear that what we're practicing right now, and you see, again, I'm happy for this opportunity because I like to always take us back. So as we are right now, are we practicing the British kind of presidential or whatever government, or the American? Because we seem not to be practicing neither of both. Because when we started on this journey, it was the British, and that was why we have the parliamentary kind of system. And since that is what we're supposed to be mirroring our governance after, then we should go the old hog, where you have the prime minister sitting in the house, and the opposition can look at him in the face and say, look, Mr. Man, you're not doing this right. You see, those are critical things, because you see, if you don't get it right at that point and do the right thing, we can keep dancing around and dancing around and dancing around. Those things will never take us to where we want to go. It's like boarding a bus, to a wrong destination, and imagining in your heart that you're going to go to a destination that you desire. You must first know, where am I going? What bus can take me there? As it stands, we all can see clearly that the bus we're in, as regards the system of government, can definitely not take us to the destination that we desire. So I will want to use this opportunity to please appeal to Mr. President. He's shown courage, which is very critical in the character of a good leader, that whenever he believes in something, he goes ahead, not minding, what pain everyone is going to suffer and all of that, because he's sure in his heart that in the medium or long term, it will be beneficial to all. Leadership, right. The system of leadership right now needs such courage. We need him to make such pronunciation. We need him to interrogate it and lead us in that direction, so that at least in this his time, we can correct that as well, because we will need that kind of structure or that kind of leadership system or political system to be able to take us to where we all are desirous of going.
But do you see, the place of this Afrocentric governance that Chief Obasanjo has been advocating for? Do you see a place for that in our present-day democracy, as against the Eurocentric style of governance that he says, has brought us no good so far?
I've always advocated for the fact that if you want to get anything done, you must put your feet on the ground. Now, anything you do and is not connected to your root and the way you think or the people you are, you're definitely not going very far. So we are gotten to a point in our life where we're old enough to start to say what exactly works for us the best. You know, so if we would continue to, because yes, I just suggested that we should mirror it after the British, but we should mirror it recognizing who we are and doing it to connect, you know, clearly and expressly speaking to your question. Yes, we need to inculcate our cultural, our Afrocentric, history and bias into whatever we do, because until then, we will not have our legs on the ground. And if you don't have your legs on the ground, I mean, one person that is my hero and I've read about over and over again is Mahatma Gandhi. And that man is someone, he never became president. He was just a fighter of the nation. But you see, he believed in something and lived it, even the way he dressed. Because you see, those are critical elements that we always take our eyes away from. If we do not make up our minds, nobody's going to come from outside to do it for us as well as we can do it for ourselves from the inside. So it is time that as a people, as Africans, as Nigerians, to start to look inwards, to find a way of preferring our kind of solution. Of course, we'll benchmark it with the best practices in the world, what is working for other people, but we must be ready to introduce our own elements and the way we do things that clearly speaks to who we are, because we have our own peculiarities.
Well, vintage Olusegun Obasanjo also, spoke about us reaching out to Zimbabwe to learn lessons from them in how they tackled inflation, hyperinflation, in fact. In fact, statistics say that as that was in 2003 or thereabout, in 2008, a dollar was amounting to about 2.6 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. Right now, it's hovering around 47.6%, as against the Nigerian, inflation figures as of December, 28.92. But do you find any merits in that suggestion? Are the cases the same? Are there things that Nigeria can, borrow from other countries, Zimbabwe in this context?
I'm afraid I don't think we have anything to learn from Zimbabwe on how they have managed their crisis, because they are still in the woods. They are not yet out of it. When you look at the Nigeria and Zimbabwe, they are 2 miles, thousands of miles apart in terms of the problems and challenges being faced by those both countries. I would tell you, look at even the value of the dollar, to Zimbabwean currency. The gap is too wide. We are talking of trillions to change to dollars. That is not what we are talking about in Nigeria. It's just that we are so used, to a subsidized existence in a way that the first major shock, to go all the way to solve the problem when we realize that the system is being abused, round tripping is happening, people are taking oil out, going to neighboring countries and then being subsidized is undermining our economy. We have a group of elites who are determined, to send oil to different parts. We all know what happened, how people get weapons through oil bunkering, and then get weapons into the country, in the Niger Delta. So there are a lot of good reasons why, they have to deal with the issue of subsidy. And then with the subsidy removal, that only led 250%, inflation, increase in cost of goods. Is 250%. Is not 2,000, 4,000 like in Zimbabwe. There are two different situations completely. Then again, when you look at the purchasing power of Nigerians, it is still, today, it is still better than in Zimbabwe. The cost of goods and services are still better in Nigeria than many countries. Go to Kenya. You spend almost 200,000 naira to pay for electricity, just alone. How many people hand that kind of money, in Kenya? Do they have a better economy than us? We need to look at the issues. This government came in at a point in time when the country's economy was prostrate, totally prostrate. We are talking about printing 22 trillion under Ways and Means, which the CBN printed under with Emefiele at the helm under Buhari. when you print money without producing anything to justify that money, what are you doing? You are driving up inflation. That is the cause of our problem. And that is why you see the CBN trying to mop money, out of circulation in different ways. That is exactly what they're trying to do. While it has its own effect of when you increase, the CR, cash reserve ratio of the banks, it will reduce the amount of money, available to be spent. It's only about 25% of depositors' funds, that banks can now loan out. So I know it has impacted, but it has also brought in revenue from other sources. For instance, the treasury bills is now running at over 21% interest rate. So it's so attractive. And also government bonds. So you are likely going to have, the foreign exchange inflow into the country through that. And what is our major problem? Is it Naira or dollar? It's dollar. It's dollar that we need. For those who are saying that, we should have joined BRICS and all that, I understand that. But that is not a solution. If you join the BRICS today, you still have a dollar-denominated debt of over 87 trillion. The dollar component of it is about $32 billion. Where are you going to get that from? Even when you trade from one national currency to the other, where are you going to get that from? So whether you like it or not, you still need to clear the existing debt, which I think is what this government is doing right. They're trying to clear the debts, which the country owes. They're trying to mop up the money, the excess cash liquidity, which is leading to high inflation, while at the same time looking at agriculture. Because look at it very well. What is our problem? It's not about Zimbabwe. We're better off than Zimbabwe.